Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 12, Chapter 51, Diamonds in the Dust, Part 1 of 2. Compassion towards all creatures is the greatest virtue. Willful injury to any creature is the worst vice. Have full faith in this. Spread love and joy through compassion, and be full of joy and peace yourself. You do not have joy and peace now, mainly because your vision is warped and wobbling. The vision is now directed towards the faults and failures of others, never towards one's own faults and failures. The ears too delight when stories of failures and foibles of others are related. No attempt is made to examine the failures and foibles of oneself. Really speaking, inquiry and the investigation have to begin with oneself. For what we see in others is the reflection of our own selves, our own prejudices and preferences. Besides, when your attention is focused on faults and failures, vices and wrongs, the mind too becomes infected with the pollution, and it starts relishing only experiences of such tastes. Hence, the lives of such people lose the peace and joy that are the heritage of the wise and the wary. Let us take the example of the snake. It has two characteristics. 1. It never moves straight. Its path is always crooked. 2. It strikes at all that comes in its way. Man too is snaky, for he exhibits these two characteristics in a noticeable way. And so he shares another characteristic of the snake, its poison. Slavery to sensory objects is like a snake's poison. In Sanskrit, poison is called visha. A kindred word is vishaya, which means the sensory objects, which poisons the mind of man with lust, anger, greed, craving, pride and hate. The snake's poison is the reason why it is destroyed wherever seen. Man's slavery to Vishaya is the cause of his downfall too. But the situation is not without some hope. The serpent can be tamed and its poison fangs removed when music from the Nagaswaram pipe is played, and when it is fascinated by that sweet melody. The poison that Vishaya exerts on the human mind can also be eliminated and countermanded when man is fascinated by the sweet melodies of Namasmarana and Sankirtan, that is to say, by the repetitive chanting and congregational singing of the meaningful names of the Lord. The poison in both can thus be transmuted into pure nectar. What happens to man when Namasmarana withdraws his mind from the sensory tangles is the acquisition of samachitta, a new balance of mind, a blissful equanimity. Nature is in a constant flux. Nothing remains the same, even for a few seconds. The sweet dish that is cooked now becomes stale and stinking a few hours hence, and is ruined so much that it acts as a danger to health when consumed. Other types of changes happen in other fields, other things and beings. And man not only expects these changes, he prepares himself to face them. In fact, in many cases, he is unhappy if the change does not happen. If things remain the same, it is certain to cause deep disappointment. A newborn baby must grow in weight, in movement of limbs, in the intake of food, and the output of energy through activity. Or else the parents become anxious and run from doctor to doctor. The same thing happens when the child does not walk or talk, weep or laugh. Aim at constant consciousness of the reality. In a normal baby, there exists real samachitta, for there is no desire to agitate it, except the instinctive desire for food, drink, and maternal protection. The baby is the inheritor of immortality, so it is unaffected by anxiety that haunts the adult. The word samachitta is, in common parlance, taken to mean sheer equanimity. That is, an unshaken balance when confronted by success or failure, loss or gain, pleasure or pain. But sama has another and more significant meaning, namely Brahman, the universal, eternal, absolute principle. Samachitta, therefore, in its philosophical sense, means a consciousness established in the absolute Brahman, and, as a consequence, above and beyond the storms and stillness of the world of duality. This constant consciousness of the reality is the fruit of yajna, selfless sacrifice, the Vedic symbol of tyaga, renunciation. As mentioned in the statement, na medaya, na prajaya, dane nai tyage naike, amritatva manashaho. Not by intellect, nor by progeny, nor by wealth, but only by renunciation can immortality be attained. Yajna, sacrifice, means tyaga, renunciation. It is to emphasize this great axiom that during Dashara every year, the Vedic yajna is performed. The thousands who attend the festival can share the knowledge and the inspiration that the yajna provides. Master the assertive ego by the real self. This day is the samapti of the yajna. Sama means, as I just said now, Brahman. So samapti means the attainment of sama or Brahman, which is the summum bonum or the highest good of the ritual. The realization of this Brahmic reality is the birthright of all men. But though born with the right and the responsibility as the Amrita Putra, child of the nectar of immortality, man denies himself the victory, courts defeat, and prides himself as a child of delusion. The realization which is his due is not attempted, even though it is an attainable achievement. It is a simple conquest, so simple that people never attempt it. The assertive ego that urges him to identify himself with the body and the instrument with which it is equipped, the motives with which those instruments work, and the reactions which these motives breed, has to be mastered by the real self, a wave of the great ocean of cosmic consciousness. That is all. Now, man declares himself as Aham and takes pride in his ahamkara, egoistic consciousness. But he is not aware of the inner meaning of the word Aham. Aham is just a verbal symbol of what he really is. The A or Ah sound represents the omnipresent Godhead, often referred to as Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita it is stated, Akshara Namakarosmi. Among the letters, I am the letter A. Hum means Shakti, energy, power, force. So when one points to himself as Aham, he is unconsciously announcing that he is the hardened energy of the omnipresent, universal absolute Brahman, called also Vishnu. Besides, the Lord says in the Gita, Maya tatamidam sarvam. By me, this entire universe is pervaded. When all is He, you and all other jivas, individualized beings, are He. How then can we demarcate some as bad and relish the stories concerning them and list their faults and failings? End of part 1 of 2. Prashanti Nilayam, October 25th, 1974.